From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
You want to go where to buy a new refrigerator? Steve's A to Z Appliance in Cottonwood? In Cottonwood? Just a 10-minute drive. And they'll save us money. New and used, honest, reliable, factory-trained repair service and parts, and they'll save us money. And dispose of this thing? We gotta make the short drive to Steve's A to Z. Thanks, hon.
Steve's A to Z Appliance, front and main streets in Cottonwood. Drive a little, save a lot.
Happy Friday morning to you. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger. It is your Friday edition. Yes, we are getting up closer to the weekend. Now, the valley highs are going to be dropping over the weekend. We can look forward to that. Here's the thing, though. There is some moisture that's going to be coming in. It's going to be feeling more muggy out there, and we're also looking at the potential for thunderstorms. Now, I think most of it will be in the mountains, but we can't rule out some activity possibly in the valley as well. We're going to take a closer look at all of that in the deeper dive forecast, obviously, and then dry and warmer as we take you through next week. All right, let's go ahead and take a look through Krueger's Quickcast, and this is for your Friday, August 15th. So, out the door this morning. It's still going to be pretty mild out there, but the temperature is cooling off a little bit here this morning. About 8 o'clock in the morning, we're looking at temperatures in the mid-70s for the valley. Still some fog along the coast, some drizzle, mid-50s there. Mainly 50s for many of the higher elevations, but in the eastern mountains, maybe somewhere in the low to mid-60s. So there is, I'm going to say it, and I don't want you to cringe, an atmospheric river. You can clearly see that band of clouds coming in from the west. This is not an atmospheric river that you typically associate with in the middle of the winter. It's not going to have major impacts, but it will bring some measurable rainfall, especially to the Pacific Northwest. It'll weaken as it moves over us, but it will be a moisture source, and that's what's going to bring us the potential for thunderstorms, as I mentioned, over the weekend. But in the meantime, it is dry for your Friday. Still a little gusty, especially on the west side of the valley here. That's going to elevate our fire weather risk really across the board for the valley for this afternoon. But then by Saturday morning, those winds should start to die down again. So let's take a look at Futurecast at least through today, and we are going to be shower and thunderstorm free. There will be that fog and low clouds along the coast. I think it's going to be hard pressed for any of you along the coast to really see much in the way of clearing. Now you can see Precision Cast is picking up on a few sprinkles here and there. Not out of the question, but the atmosphere is still very dry. We've got to saturate that atmosphere first before that rain really does start to fall. So most of what you're seeing there is going to evaporate before really reaching the ground. Then by tomorrow morning, we start to see a band of rain, light showers really push through the north coast and eventually pushing eastward through the day on Saturday. Again, a closer look at your deeper dive here in a bit. Temperatures kind of wrapping up the work week with some fairly hot temperatures, upper 90s to about 100 degrees in the valley, 80s and 90s for the higher elevations, and mid to even upper 60s for some of you along the coast this afternoon. Let's take a look at that 7-day outlook, and there it is. Saturday, Red Bluff and Redding, maybe a chance for a late afternoon, early evening, even overnight shower, off chance for a thunderstorm as well. Is it going to be a big deal? Most likely not. And when we take a look at two different forecast models, the HRRR and the in-house forecast model, you'll see how there is some discrepancy there. But by Sunday, I do expect drier conditions and dry and warmer conditions as we take you through next week. Now, the coast will see showers on Saturday as well as the inland areas. I think it'll dry out for those areas, though, on Sunday, with Trinity County seeing yet another chance for thunderstorms on Sunday. But I will say that the overall coverage and the chances for thunderstorms across the board really are going to be slimmer on Sunday, but we have the chance nonetheless for both Saturday and Sunday, and then drying out and warming up through next week. That's a look at Krueger's Quickcast. Now let's take a look at the latest on the fires and take a look at the fire tracker here, and there really hasn't been any activity that's been detected by the satellite here that we can really talk a whole lot about. Some of the main fires we've been tracking here for quite a while is the Big Cliff Fire. The latest report coming in from there is 45% containment at 971 acres. We take you out to the Green Fire. No update since August 7th. It is August 15th, folks. It's been over a week since we've gotten a report on this fire. Latest report, over 19,000 acres and 99% containment. Now, just as of yesterday afternoon, the Butler Fire is reported now at 99% contained, but hasn't really grown at 21,058 acres. So we are nearing that 100% containment at this point. Before we get to those winds, I want to show you what's going on with the satellite image here. And you'll notice the area that I've circled here. You see that? That is the Heather fire. You may have heard about it yesterday, and it was creating a bit of a scare and a threat for that part of the area. It's basically east of Hornbrook. And you can see the flare-up of that fire. And then, of course, that did die down a bit here. Let's take a look at watch duty. You can see the Heather fire right up here. As I mentioned, it is east of Hornbrook. And yesterday there was an evacuation order that has been downgraded to an evacuation warning. 240 acres, 5% containment. But yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, they did report that the forward progress has been stopped. In the meantime, we're looking at the mountain fire. That's 75% contained. Forward progress has been stopped there at 980 acres. We take you to the south. I believe there was another fire. There it is, the Clark fire. That's now at 100% containment. Last report was at just under 51 acres. So that's what's going on with the fires. Thanks to Garmin's Tractor Service for that report. And here's the future as far as what's going on with the fire weather. Right now, the winds are expected to pick up this afternoon. A little concerning, especially west of I-5, but with those gusty winds we expect later today, that's going to elevate our fire weather risk. It's going to be hot and it's going to be dry. Now, the winds will die down Saturday morning, but they'll pick up again a little bit for Saturday afternoon. But the key to Saturday and even Sunday, much higher relative humidity and cooler temperatures. So when we look at the fire weather risk, yes, today it's high. Why? Because of those gusty winds, hot and dry. Not so bad, but still low to moderate for many of the higher elevations. But take a look at Saturday. Remember those winds picking up in the afternoon, but look at the humidity levels. 30, even over 40%. Now that's pretty high for us around here. You definitely will feel that on the mugginess. It'll feel a little bit more muggy than you're used to here on Saturday, and that'll be the case again on Sunday as well. So the good that's coming out of these chances for thunderstorms is that humidity levels are going to be going up, and that's going to decrease our fire weather risk, at least for those fires spreading. However, dry lightning strikes will be a concern. We'll get into all that a little bit later, but first, let's take a look at the Weather NorCal app that you have free access to. Just go to your app store, search for Weather NorCal, and download the app for free. The app has a lot of local Northern California. That's the key with it. It's all about Northern California, folks. Now, it will travel with you, and it'll give you watches and warnings wherever you are across the nation. But when you are at home, you can rest assured that the forecast you are getting is from a meteorologist, not just some AI bot putting out numbers out there, okay? So that's the key to the Weather NorCal app. So let's talk about this for a second. We're taking a look at the satellite image, see a swirling area of low pressure. I mean, this is something that we would typically see in the winter, although typically in the winter, that's more coming in from the south and west. So the argument people hate the term atmospheric river. I get it. It's been overused. It's been sensationalized here by the media. And I hate that. And that really does bug me because it is a real meteorological term that came about in the mid-90s to help really explain things. Now, what was used before that, you may have heard about it. People explain it. They talk about it. Pineapple Express. I've even heard Coconut Connection. And the argument for that is because it's coming in from the southwest and coming into Northern California and really just the western United States, coming from Hawaii, right? A source comes from that general vicinity. Pineapple Express, Coconut Connection, right? So that's where that term came from. However, look where this moisture source is coming from. It's coming actually pretty far north of Hawaii. So to call it a Pineapple Express wouldn't be an accurate representation, would it? And that's kind of where the term of atmospheric river comes into play. Now, another thing that atmospheric river has been, as I mentioned, sensationalized, and it's associated with the tragedy, with flooding and the works, right? Not the case with this. This atmospheric river is not going to have the same impact as it would, say, in the middle of the winter. So yes, we are going to see some decent rain for the Pacific Northwest, and I think that's where most of the rain will be with this system. As it shifts to the south, we're going to start cutting off that flow and that source of moisture, but the moisture is going to be there nonetheless. I want to show you the water vapor image. You can see just how dry. This is all very dry air. That dry air was over us and has been over us, but it's being pushed to the south and will be replaced by this right here, more moist air that's going to be shifting to the south, and it's that source of moisture that's going to bring us the showers and thunderstorms. So once again, you can see there it is. See that? We've got all this moisture over the western Pacific. It's tapping into it, and we have this flow coming right into the Pacific Northwest, but it's even spilling southward into Northern California. Now look what happens by the time we get into Saturday. It shifts to the south, but we still have a little bit of that float, but it's getting cut off a little bit here. So we're basically Mother Nature turning that spigot down. So instead of a broader flow and a fast, better flow of moisture, we're seeing less of that. However, it is still pointed at Northern California, and that's going to be the source of moisture. Now, by the time we get into Sunday, now we're getting cut off from that. You see here, we're getting cutting off of that. But Sunday, there's still some leftover moisture, as you can see right here. That's the green and yellow. Then by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we start to see drier air begin to move in. You see the browns and the blues, that's the drier air moving into Northern California. So again, you're hearing the term atmospheric river. It's being overused by what I call armchair meteorologists. They post things on Facebook without much knowledge about the weather, and it's frustrating because they like to get the clicks and all that, right? So know the source that you're getting from before you start sharing it and telling all your friends about it. Know the source that you're getting information from, all right? So that's kind of what's going on with that atmospheric river. I just wanted to kind of explain that in a little bit more detail, a lot more detail really, just so you understand what's going on. So let's talk about what that means for our chances for thunderstorms. So some of the models are indicating that we could see some thunderstorms in the valley here on Saturday. There's a fine line here. We're gonna have to kind of watch it. Number one, it's been very dry. So I mentioned this yesterday. Think of the atmosphere as a sponge, okay? So you have that sponge that's very dry. You start filling that sponge with water, but before you start seeing it overflow, you've got to start saturating that sponge first, and then it eventually overflows. That's kind of how the atmosphere works. It starts saturating. At first, you just got to saturate the atmosphere. Then eventually it becomes oversaturated and we start seeing rain. All right, so let's take you into today, and I'll show you a prime example of that. We're starting to see the atmosphere get a little bit more saturated. That moisture is starting to shift southward through the day today. The atmosphere will start getting more saturated, but still not fully saturated. So you can see here the clouds that are starting to kind of kick in, but really not much in the way of rain at this point. Then we can see that flow of moisture right here. There it is. So by tomorrow morning, we're seeing showers along the coast, maybe some isolated showers developing north and west of the valley. Let's take you into the afternoon. Now, I actually tend to agree with this. I think the HRRR forecast model is doing a pretty good job here. You can see the thunderstorms in Siskiyou County. I would say even parts of Trinity County will see that, but probably not a lot of activity here off to the east into, say, places like Modoc County, Eastern Mountains, although we still can't rule out some thunderstorm activity there. All right, now let's talk about the valley. See that? All right, so the valley, we've got to saturate that atmosphere as well. So we could see a stray shower, and we can't rule out an isolated thunderstorm. And I really like the placement of this as far as I agree with this, right? Red Bluff northward into Redding. South of that, we still can't rule out any activity there either, but the chances are slimmer for places like Corning, Willows, Chico, and Oroville. And this is a pattern we're going to have to watch here very closely as we get into that time frame. Now, this model only goes out to about midnight, Saturday night into Sunday morning, but you can see that activity kind of we see a lull in that activity. All right, now we take a look at the in-house forecast model, and I want to show you what's going on here. So you can see here, same situation for this afternoon. Agrees with the HRRR forecast model. No rain, just the clouds moving in. You see a few specks of green. That would most likely be evaporating before reaching the ground. But a stray sprinkler or two, sure, maybe in Siskiyou County, but don't count on it. All right, and by the way, cloudy along the coast. There it is. Just like the HRRR forecast model, here you have that line of moisture, light rain, light showers for the coast, making its way into Siskiyou County and maybe even parts of Trinity County as well. Now you can see this is where the models start to disagree. Look at this. Look at that flare up of these thunderstorms here through the afternoon in the valley. Number one, I think it's going too far to the south. And number two, I think it's overly aggressive. Now this model tends to do that actually. It tends to what we call over-convect. I guess a non-official term here. So I don't think it's going to be quite as active as what you're seeing here for the valley. And then heading northward, yes, it could be a lot more active there later in the day. But you remember the HRRR mainly headed for Siskiyou County, but really not much activity here. So we'll still, I think, see a chance for thunderstorms here, even in the eastern mountains, Trinity County, and as I mentioned, maybe even the valley, but I think that might be overdoing it there. By midnight, yeah, still some leftover showers, possible thunderstorms for parts of the valley. 6 a.m. on Sunday, most of it's off to the east, but we're seeing that lull in the activity. Now, what you'll notice here, this model only goes out to about midday Sunday. Not very widespread, but I think eventually by the afternoon we will see thunderstorms popping up, especially to the east, but even for Siskiyou and Trinity County as well. So that's what's going on there. And by the way, the coast, mainly looking at some showers on Saturday, especially in the morning, as well as the inland areas, but any thunderstorms will most likely be east of Del Norte and Humboldt counties. All right. So that's what's going on with that potential for rain, the potential for thunderstorms over the weekend. By Monday, that's all done with, by the way, and we're drying out and warming back up. Speaking of warming back up, well, before we do that, we're going to be cooling things down over the weekend. This right here is the source of that cooler air, more mild air shifting southward, pushing that heat off to our east, pushing this heat off to our west. That mild air pretty much stays in place going into early next week. However, what we're starting to see happen is this ridge of high pressure is beginning to build in and get stronger, and that's going to be the increase in our temperatures. You see this? This is not doing what I would like to see it do. I'd like to see it push a little bit more to the south and east and nudge that off to the east as well. But unfortunately, that doesn't look like that's going to be the case. And we've got this heat that'll be building in. So I do expect us to approach that 105-degree mark as we get toward the end of next week. And you can see that here on the 10-day trend. Nice dip in our temperatures, by the way, over the weekend. You know, we're talking about the chance for showers and thunderstorms. Another result of all of that is the cooler temperatures. With temperatures bumping back up. You see how we're approaching that 105-degree mark by Thursday, Friday, even Saturday, and then maybe a slight dip. So yes, we do have a warming trend, a bit of a mini heat wave, if you will, coming into parts of next week. Here's a look at your lake levels. We're at 67% capacity at Shasta Lake, but still over 100% of that historical average. And those numbers are looking a bit higher out towards Trinity Lake and Lake Oroville as well. All right, let's take a look at those wave heights. You can see they're going to be fairly low here for today, but by tomorrow, I expect them to increase a bit because of that approaching system. So here's a marine forecast for your Friday. Northwest winds at about 5 knots, waves from the northwest at 4 feet at 6 seconds, and from the southwest at 2 feet at about 14 seconds. Just a patchy, dense fog out there. Your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. Your Trinity County neighborhood forecast, temperatures in the 90s, 80s and 90s, although Mad River about 76. There's that chance for thunderstorms Saturday, Sunday, and then we dry out and start to warm up through next week. Your Dignity Health North Coast neighborhood forecast, mid-60s for the coast, showers Saturday, mainly dry on Sunday. If you see a stray sprinkle or light shower on Sunday, don't be surprised. But I think Saturday is really going to be the main day for that, even for the inland areas. And after that, it starts to warm up inland. Your Dignity Health Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast, temperatures in the low to mid 80s, although Happy Camp about 90. 79 degrees for Doris, 81 degrees for Tennant. There's that chance for thunderstorms over the weekend. Modoc County neighborhood forecast, temperatures low to mid 80s for today, down into the low 80s over the weekend, and then slowly increasing through next week. Your Eastern Mountains neighborhood forecast, temperatures in the 80s and 90s for your daytime highs, with Shingletown about 86, 89 for Kronberg, and 91 degrees in Paradise. And your Valley neighborhood forecast, brought to you by Dignity Health, temperatures in the mid to upper 90s, not quite reaching 100 degrees in most cases, including Chico, but you'll be close with a high of 98. Temperatures low to mid 80s for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, mid to upper 80s, and then back into the 90s by the time you get to Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe some triple digits by next Thursday. We take you up to the north, about 100 degrees for the north end of the valley, although places like Red Bluff about 98, 95 for Lakehead and Whiskeytown about 93. And there's a look at your 7-day forecast for Redding, Again, I've included that chance for a shower, maybe even a thunderstorm late in the day Saturday into Saturday night. But I do expect drier conditions on Sunday and even cooler with a high of about 89 degrees. Temperatures slowly increasing through next week, back to up to over 100 degrees by Wednesday and Thursday. That's your morning update. I'll be back again at noon. Have yourselves a great morning.